All right, what's poppin' world? Y'all tapped in with the Head of the Game podcast. Without further ado, man, y'all ready to title? Let's get right into it. So I just want to segue, away from my general content, and I want to talk about women for a second. You feel me? I've been dating women for quite a while, you know, and I think I'm well versed on this topic because I've had a lot of, you know, experiences, right? A lot of different experiences regarding interacting with women, right? So some would like to believe what would be the differences between, getting to know a woman off a dating app and cold approaching a woman in person, right? Now, preferably, it's just, and I'm just gonna be real with y'all. It just depends on what your intentions are, right? Now, are there anomalies? My disclaimer, because I don't want to involve the all police, to slide on by and act as if, oh, well, I was a person that I had a situation where that logic doesn't apply to. I get it. I get it. But there are exceptions to the rule, but I'm speaking in general. So, if your intentions are, all right, I'm just trying to build up the muscle memory of interacting with women. I don't want to take nothing really too serious. Maybe I'm in the middle of my career field and I'm just trying to not like use women because, it's just interaction, right? You're building up the muscle memory of understanding how to interact with women because it's a muscle, right? Um, it's something you got to work on, not super duper consistently and make your life revolve around it. But you have to have a healthy amount of female interaction in order to sustain either like a relationship or whatever the case may be, right? And it don't even have to be nothing like intimate. It can just be platonic. Interacting with women is just something that, you know, uh, it's a necessity to a certain extent, you know. So if you're on the dating apps, for sure, get out there, see what's out there, try it out. Now if you do strike gold and you do find somebody that's just a diamond in the rough, you feel me? Take it serious. But preferably, when it comes down to approaching the women in person, I feel like right away you get to strip away a lot of the facade. Not to sit up there and say that it's always going to work out or it's always going to be, but it's more organic, right? To cold approach, however it is, to be introduced to a woman in person, right? It's more organic. The dating aspect, a lot of people can hide between, behind a profile and things of that nature. So, you know, how they would say them angles, you get the right angle, me looking all good and stuff, and then you get in person and be like, this ain't the same person. So, you got filters and I can go on and on, but y'all get the point. Right? Is that in person and to a certain extent because some women do have enhancements. So if they wear makeup to a certain extent, yeah, it could be deceptive. It could be misleading, based off of their natural appearance, but it's just a preference. Some people don't really care that deeply when it comes down to beauty, right? It's just like, hey, all right, just as long as you look presentable, whatever you got to do, do what you got to do, and that's that. So those are the first, on the surface, initial reasons or the differences between, in my opinion, dating apps and talking to women in person, right? Now, I want to touch on the strategies, right? Like what's effective, what translates between both of them, and then what are isolated interactions when it comes down to, talking, just the differences between interacting with some, what's not effective on either end, right? So if you're talking about the things that don't work, let's talk about the things that do work that don't carry over to the other side, right? So when you're stepping to a woman, you feel me, you get either, and it's subjective on how you approach a woman. You know, some people got punchlines. Some people just ask the simple, polite, hello, how you doing? What's your name? You know, so on and so forth. However you want to go about initiating the interaction, that's at your discretion. I'm not trying to tell you how to walk up on a female, because not everything works for everybody. You got to just figure out what works for you, right? So, introducing yourself to a woman in person, a lot that's going to play in your favor, or it could work against your favor, depending on how well versed you are in this department, which is body language, right? So if you're not used to knowing how much space you need to give, or how much space you need to close up on when you got somebody's attention, because you have a short, very finite moment for that first impression. Once it's gone, you cannot reinvent or recreate that moment. It is forever gone, right? Now, if somebody decides to give you a second chance, or if they're curious enough to see how it's going to go, though it's going off to a rocky start, that would just depends on, you know, the female, obviously, right? So, if you used to sit up there and you walk up on a female and you like, hey, Miss Lady, how you doing? You looking good? Whatever the case may be, whatever line you want to sit up there and be like, hey, what's your name, baby? However you want to, you know, riz up, as the kids say, you feel me? A lot with your body language, your space and your distance. You know, are you too much on her? Are you too far away from her to where she can't hear you? Because you be like, hey, and you're not being concise with your words. It could indirectly give creep vibes, right? If you're unsure, you're uncertain, and you're going to be a lot nervous, but you have to have a certain frame about yourself, right? A certain appeal that she can gravitate towards, because women naturally like confidence. Naturally. Now, confidence is subjective, because there's a fine line between being a player and being a creep. Being smooth and suave and being arrogant or weird. You feel me? It just depends on how it lands on that particular woman, because what won't work for one woman may well work for the next woman. So don't get bent out of shape if you get rejected. Even if you follow all these steps, you feel me? It's a subjective game when it comes down to women. It's not a one size fits all. And contrary to what most like to believe, all women love me, I'm a player, baby, I'll be macking them, I'll be, you know, like, it sound good, but all in all, you feel me, it's just a case-by-case situation. And those that's been out there like that, because I'll be the first to say I've been rejected countless of times, but I also I've had some successful interactions, and it's kind of like a volume shooter in basketball, right? So if you're shooting 50% from the field and you shoot the ball 30 times, that's 15 women that rejected you, but that's also 15. Now, that's a crazy success rate when it comes down to women, right? As good as 50%, that's a very good. I mean, even if you're 20%, that's good. That means 1 out of 5 women is going to give you the time of day for you to, in order to get to know them, right? So, body language. Body language is probably the biggest thing when it comes down to the approach. You don't want to, no physical touch, you know, none of that. You feel me? Because we live in a world where, you know, you don't want to get no charges, and this should really go without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. You feel me? Like, keep your space, be suave, be assertive, make your presence felt, but also at the same time, you feel me, don't come off thirsty or, hey, mommy, yeah, how you doing, baby? Yeah, you looking good. Oh, that's going to turn a woman off. Some of them like the catcalling, you feel me? Some of them like the, you know, that egotistical, super macho type stuff. But by and large, it depends on the type of woman. You feel me? It depends on the type of woman that's going to respond to whatever you kick into her, right? So that's that. Body language. You have no body language in the dating app game. So what you have to rely on or more of the visuals, right? So your pictures gotta be on point. Feel me? I'm not saying what I said earlier, sitting up there glamming up your pictures and, make it you, but make sure you fresh, because it's the first impression. When women is swiping left, swiping right, they gonna determine that first picture and be like, oh, okay. And they gonna click on your profile and they're gonna keep swiping, and then they gonna match with you. Like, okay, yeah, you look good. Match. That's how it typically works, right? Is that a woman's gonna match with somebody they find somewhat attractive. Now, whether they like them or not, they're open to figure that out. But so that's the first thing, your pictures. Second thing, which is really subjective, which is if you're not photogenic and you know how to take a lot of good pictures, maybe you went over with your bio, right? Your description, your introduction. Me personally, I'm not good at bios. You feel me? I can give you like on the surface, but some people really have a way with words when it comes down to typing or texting. I'm not one of them people. I'll fully admit that. Right? And then the third thing is, if you know how to text, you already have a superior advantage, right? I'm not a person that likes texting or anything like that. I'm more of an on the phone person. Like, hey, shit, we can chop it up. You feel me? Be on the phone for 2, 3, 4 hours. You feel me? And I'll just keep them coming. You feel me? Because I feel like a lot with texting, and that's why you have to have emojis. A lot of things can get misinterpreted. You feel me? And that's how people end up double texting and all this other stuff and not allowing somebody to respond, right? So that's the strong suit when it comes down to dating apps, is that it's more visual, and body language is more visual as well, but it's more the non-verbals are more prominent on the in-person side, right? So that's that. So those are the two good things about, that, like I said, if you're a person that is a great communicator as well in person, then maybe your nonverbals don't have to be all that on point. You feel me? Like knowing how to use your hands and body language and your frame and stuff like that when you macking. You feel me? You doing your thing, your facial expressions, all that. If you got away with words, you can get away with not being so aesthetically appealing, right? Especially if you're funny. If you're a funny person that got a great sense of humor, yeah, that can go a long way with women, right? So, with that being said, so we got through intentions and we got through effectiveness. Now, let's see, where do I want to take this next? Where do I want to take this next? Well, it's easier to do the numbers game. Okay, so here's a disadvantage about the dating apps in comparison to in my experience, the dating apps and meeting a woman in person. So if you meet a woman in person and she don't do dating apps, unless another guy decides to shoot his shot at her in person, pretty much you have no competition whatsoever at all, because some women just have a bad, they just don't care for the whole dating app thing, right? They know it's out there, they know it exists, they know this, but they just don't like the culture that surrounds dating apps, because dating apps, unfortunately, is associated with the hookup culture, right? So you sit up there, you find a woman, you get on the phone with her, and there's a lot of people just hooking up on there, so you may not want, why I said in the beginning, why it depends on your intentions, is that if you meet a woman in person and she gives you the time of day in person, that means whatever hard patches or rough patches y'all go through, she's going to be more invested, because she actually she's abstained herself from interacting with so many people, and she only can solely and focus on you, right? Because the more here's the bad thing about interacting with so many, well, at least on the woman's side, interacting with so many men, right? You begin to build this Frankenstein in your head, like, oh, he need to look like this, but he also need to talk like that and walk like that and have this kind of money and dress like this, and all these are indicators from the past interactions that they had from other guys in the past. So when you're getting to know her, she may have this insatiable appetite to be like, well, you'll never live up to my ideal expectations of a man that she's never met, because, not to say he don't exist, but maybe she just outperforms her expectation. Not outperforms, but she underperforms her expectations due to what's realistic and what's ideal. Because sometimes they don't exist in the same existence, right? So with that being said, I would definitely sit up there and say that, you know, if you're looking for, something of substance, you have a higher chance getting to know a woman in person. Now, not to say there ain't no women out there that you meet in person that, and like I said, I gotta keep doing these disclaimers because I don't want just the small sector of people to get this notion that it's always and all the time one thing or the other. Like I said, you can be fortunate enough to get on a dating app and find a diamond in the rough, a woman that's really not out there, or she very selective and picky, and vice versa. So that's another thing that, y'all can take into consideration, as far as like the differences between, meeting a woman in person and a dating app, right? Well, I could definitely say that first impressions, you gotta have two individual first impressions when you're on a dating app. You gotta have the first initial impression where you get her on the phone, you line up the date, you finally pick her up. It may be a lot awkward, but maybe y'all get to know each other, maybe y'all into the same thing, so on and so forth. Cool, right? I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. I ain't gonna be a PC about the politically correct about it. Bagging a woman in person is one of the most, especially a baddie, or is it somebody that you consider highly attractive? It's one of the most self-esteem ego boosters you could possibly have, right? Because I feel like it's more of a challenge. You feel me? The stakes are raised a lot higher because so much has to happen in such a short amount of time. Dang, I gotta get her attention. I gotta get her interest. I gotta get her number. I gotta get her name. I gotta tell her my story. I gotta set this up, and you gotta do this all within a 5 to 2 minute span. Because they already know right away. Now, there are women that do play hard to get, right? They sit up there like, okay, I'm available. Okay, you talking that talk, but I want to hear more. I don't care that I find you attractive. I don't care that you got a good job. I don't care that, you got a great personality and so on and so forth. What's your character like? What's your story? What you going after? What's your interests? What are your principles? You feel me? There are certain women that, will put up a safeguard, and that, though they may be interested initially, you can talk the same thing that you could talk yourself into, you can talk yourself out of, if not executed right. Because you can have great presentation. You feel me? It's just kind of like a car salesman. You can sit up there and you can show her the car. It's a nice ride. But if you don't sit up there and sell her the dream, right? And not sell her the dream like being mischievous, but sell her the idea or the world or the fantasy that, or the story she could be a part of, as far as like, oh, you look good and this car compliments you, and you're the kind of woman that deserves this kind of vehicle, and you're selling her the interest or the equity or the value of getting to know you and having you in her life and vice versa. You feel me? That is a higher challenge And when you're playing the numbers game, rejection hits harder. You feel me? Because then you got to walk away understanding that they might be the last woman you talk to today. And they got to sit on your conscience. You feel me? But with that being said, y'all, might do a part 2 to this if I come up with any more, differences or similarities. Thanks for watching, y'all. More videos on the way. Drop some thoughts below if y'all got them. You feel me? With that being said, I am up out of here. I'm gone.